The roar of engines tears through the frozen German sky. A lone P-51 Mustang cuts through the clouds, its grey frame scarred by battle. Inside, Captain Thomas Miller knows. His mission is life or death. Protect the bombers at all costs. But out of the mist, 5 Messerschmitts descend like predators. Gunfire erupts. Tracers light the heavens. A dogfight begins. Moments later, flames consume his wing. His final radio call echoes. "I've been hit! I'm going down!" The Mustang vanishes into the dark forest below. For 60 years, no one knew what happened next, until 2 hunters stumbled upon the wreck. The roar of the Allison V1710. Engine echoed across the cold German sky. In the cockpit of his rusty gray P-51 Mustang, Captain Thomas "Tom" Miller looked down at the landscape with a calm heart. His mission was to protect a group of B-17 Flying Fortress bombers on a mission to attack a tank factory near Schweinfurt. January 20th, 1943 was a day with bad weather. Thick clouds drifted across the gray sky, making visibility difficult. But Tom didn't mind. He was an excellent pilot who had completed many missions successfully. He took a deep breath and focused on his work. Suddenly, the roar of enemy planes began to appear. 5 German Messerschmitt Bf-101 emerged from the clouds and flew toward them. "We are under attack," Tom shouted over the radio. Tom pulled his plane down and confronted the Messerschmitts. He fired his machine guns quickly at the enemy planes, leaving a trail of holes in their wings. The enemy planes returned fire. Tom dodged the bullets quickly. The aerial combat erupted violently. Tom was caught in a dogfight with 3 Messerschmitts. He shot down one plane and escaped another by performing a quick maneuver. But suddenly, another enemy plane flew up behind him. The sound of bullets hit the wing of Tom's plane. His engine caught fire. "I've been hit! I'm going down!" Tom shouted over the radio. His plane steadily lost power and crashed into the forest below. He made a forced landing in a clearing surrounded by thick trees. His plane slid across the ground and hit a tree hard. When this happened, no one knew what had happened to Tom. His squadron members returned to the base with sadness because they had lost him. His case was listed as missing in action. 60 years later, in 2003, 2 hunters named Hans and Klaus were searching for deer in a deep German forest. They entered an area that was not often visited by people. Suddenly, they came across a strange object in the forest. The object was covered with leaves and small trees. "What is that?" Hans asked. "It looks like an airplane wing," Klaus replied. They approached cautiously. They saw a military plane that was dilapidated and rusted red. On the back of the plane, they saw the symbol of the United States. Air Force. They saw a faded serial number written on the back of the plane. They also saw a small painting on the side of the plane. They reported their discovery to the local police. A military research team arrived at the scene and began to excavate the area. They found the P-51 Mustang and identified it as the plane of Captain Thomas Miller. They found his logbook with faded ink and some personal belongings that were his. But despite this discovery, they did not find the body of Thomas Miller. Did he escape and disappear into the forest? Or did something else happen? The question remains a mystery. To be continued. The discovery of Captain Miller's plane and belongings sparked a new investigation. Researchers and historians pored over military records from the 1940s, trying to piece together the last moments of his flight. They confirmed that his plane, a P-51 Mustang, serial number 42-106443, was indeed reported as missing after the raid on Schweinfurt. The fact that the plane was found so intact, despite the forced landing, suggested a skilled pilot. But the absence of his remains was a troubling paradox. A new search team was assembled, this time with modern equipment and a sole purpose: to find any trace of Captain Miller. They used ground-penetrating radar and sniffer, dogs trained to detect human remains. They meticulously combed the area for weeks, expanding their search radius beyond the crash site. They found no bones, no uniform remnants, no personal effects that might have been scattered during his escape. It was as if he had simply gotten out of the plane and walked away. The only clue was a small, tattered leather-bound notebook found tucked inside. A damaged map case near the pilot's seat. It wasn't his official logbook. It was a personal diary. The ink was faded, but with careful restoration. Some of the final entries became legible. January 20th, 1943, Schweinfurt. The mission was a nightmare. We took heavy flak. My engine is on fire. Going down. I've managed to land. The forest is thick, cold. The plane is a wreck, but I'm alive. The next entries were sparse, just a few words per day. January 24th, walking east. My leg hurts, so hungry. January 22nd, saw a light. A village, maybe? No, it was just a lantern. Nothing. The final entry was just a single line, scrawled with a shaky hand. January 23rd, they found me, not the enemy. They are different. The diary ended there. They? Who were they? The local villagers? Allied forces? The last word, different, was especially mysterious. The authorities questioned local elders who had lived in the area since the war. None of them recalled seeing a crashed plane or a foreign pilot in the dense forest during that time. The locals who knew the area well spoke of old legends, of stories that were not meant for outsiders. The mystery of what happened to Captain Miller intensified. His family, who had believed he was dead for decades, now had a sliver of hope, a new question to haunt them. Had he survived? And if so, where had he gone? And who were the they who had found him? The final chapter of his story, it seemed, was buried in the woods along with his plane, waiting to be discovered. The discovery of the diary entry, with its cryptic reference to them, sent a wave of unease through the team of investigators. The final word, different, was not a simple description. It carried a weight of bewilderment and fear. The team's leader, a stoic German historian named Dr. Richter, decided to change his approach. Standard military and archaeological procedures had failed. It was time to look for a different kind of truth. He returned to the nearest village, a small, isolated settlement nestled in a valley. He sought out the oldest resident, an elderly woman named Frau Elsa, who was said to possess an encyclopedic knowledge of local folklore. She was initially hesitant, her eyes clouded with suspicion as he showed her a photograph of the rusted P-51 Mustang. "We found the plane, Frau Elsa," Dr. Richter said softly. "But not the pilot." He wrote that he was found by others, by people who were different. "Do you know anything about this?" Frau Elsa's gaze sharpened, her weathered face softening into a look of solemn understanding. She motioned for him to sit. She began to speak, her voice a low murmur, like the rustling of ancient leaves. "For generations we have lived here, in the shadow of this forest. But we are not alone. There is another people, hidden from the world. We call them the Waldbeschützer, the forest protectors. They are the guardians of these woods. They are the ones who were here long before the roads and the wars. They do not wear uniforms or carry guns. They walk the forest paths in silence, their knowledge as deep as the roots of the oldest trees." Dr. Richter listened, captivated. The legends he had dismissed as local superstition were now coming to life. When the war came, they did not choose a side, Frau Elsa continued. They were neutral. They only sought to protect their home. They have their own ways, their own medicine. We have had a pact with them for centuries. We do not trespass on their sacred grounds, and they do not interfere with our lives, unless we need them. And the pilot? Dr. Richter pressed. He crashed in a sacred place, a place they watch over closely. They found him, broken and in pain. They saw that he was a lost soul, not an enemy. They healed him, not with our medicine, but with theirs. When he was strong, they gave him a choice: return to a world that was tearing itself apart, or stay with them and live in peace, a new life, a new identity, in a place untouched by time. Frau Elsa's eyes met his, and he felt a shiver run down his spine. He made his choice. He decided to leave the war behind. He is no longer Captain Thomas Miller. He is someone else now, a protector of the forest, a man who found a different kind of peace. Dr. Richter was speechless. The truth was not in a military report or a forensic analysis. It was in a story passed down through generations. He understood why they had not found a body. Captain Miller wasn't dead. He had simply disappeared into a world that had existed all along, hidden in plain sight. He had found his final resting place not in a grave, but in a life of quiet anonymity, deep within the heart of the forest. The mystery of the vanished pilot was finally solved, not with the discovery of what was lost, but with the revelation of what was found. And for the sake of the Waldbeschützer's secret, Dr. Richter decided that this final, remarkable part of the story would never make it into his official report. The world would continue to believe that Captain Thomas Miller was simply missing in action, his legend forever lost in the mists of history. Dr. Richter returned to his team, the weight of Frau Elsa's story pressing upon him. The official report was his to write, and in that report lay the power to either reveal the unimaginable truth, or to let the mystery of Captain Miller rest forever He knew which path he had to choose. The world, with its insatiable appetite for simple, concrete answers, would never understand the delicate, ancient pact that existed in these woods. To expose the Waldbeschützer would be to destroy them. He composed his final report meticulously, a masterpiece of omission and officialese. He concluded that Captain Miller, having survived the crash, likely succumbed to his injuries or the harsh conditions of the forest, and that his remains had been scattered by animals or decomposed beyond recognition over the decades. He cited the discovery of the plane and the diary as evidence of his brave struggle to survive. But the final, cryptic entry was dismissed as the fevered hallucination of a dying man. The report was professional, logical, and utterly false. The military and the Miller family accepted the findings. The case was officially closed. A small memorial was placed at the crash site, and the story of the fighter pilot who vanished became a legend, a poignant footnote in the history of the war. Years passed. The world moved on, but Dr. Richter never forgot. The secret he carried was a silent bond with the forest and its hidden protectors. One late autumn day, long after his retirement, he found himself back in the same woods. He wasn't there for an official purpose, but simply to walk, to remember. He was far from the old crash site when he saw a figure emerge from the dense foliage ahead. It was an old man with a face that was etched with lines of age and wisdom, but his eyes held a startling resemblance to the youthful pilot in the old black and white photograph. He was dressed in simple, handmade clothes and moved with a quiet grace that spoke of a deep harmony with his surroundings. The man carried a small woven basket filled with herbs and mushrooms. Their eyes met. Dr. Richter felt a surge of emotion, a mix of awe, wonder, and profound respect. He said nothing, nor did the old man. There was no need for words. The man simply offered a small, knowing smile, a smile that held the secrets of 60 years. He then turned and disappeared as silently as he had appeared, vanishing back into the endless green heart of the forest. Dr. Richter stood there for a long time, watching the spot where the old man had been. The moment was his alone, a final confirmation of the truth he had chosen to protect. He had not found a body, but he had found a soul, a man who had chosen peace over war, and a new life where history could not reach him. The case was closed, the legend was sealed, and Captain Thomas Miller was finally truly at home. The story has reached its conclusion. Captain Miller's fate has been resolved, and the secret of his new life has been protected. Dr. Richter's decision ensures that the official record remains as a legend, while he alone knows the peaceful truth of the pilot's disappearance. Continuing the story further would change its core themes. The narrative has successfully moved from a military mystery to a tale of an individual's escape, from the world of war into a hidden, peaceful existence. Any new events, such as the secret being exposed or Captain Miller's return to society, would undo the sense of peace and finality that the story has built towards. The legend of the fighter pilot, who vanished in 1943, is now complete, with two versions of the truth, one for the world and one for those who choose to believe in something more. Subscribe for more!